become famous, or infamous really, as the Prince of Pot. Today, BC marijuana activist and seed seller Marc Emery has surrendered to face American justice. U.S. officials have been after him for years over his sale of marijuana seeds to Americans through the mail. CBC's Tim Weeks joins me with the latest from Vancouver. Tim, Emery addressed reporters before going inside that BC Supreme Court to surrender to authorities. What was his message?
Well, he was certainly unrepentant. He said he's done a number of things and he's proud of them. He said people know him as the Prince of Pot. It's a label that he said he's quite proud of. He's raised millions of dollars through the marijuana sales of seeds, and he said as a result he's spent millions of dollars. He said he spent, in fact, over the last number of years, $4 million on marijuana advocacy, on drug challenges, those kinds of things. And he says that's probably what brought him to the attention of U.S. authorities. And he said it's something that he feels that as a Canadian, this is a travesty of justice. He says as a Canadian citizen, he's being arrested and being shipped to the U.S. in order to face these charges. And I hope we have a clip gathered, rather. And this is him actually talking to all his supporters, telling them that he needs them to take action now.
As a Canadian being sent abroad to the United States for an activity I did here in Vancouver, openly and transparently and proudly, I have to say I'm disappointed in my government. I'm a little disappointed in my country, but I remain a very positive and proud Canadian patriot. The Justice Minister is going to have to sign off on my extradition. Tell him don't do it. It's a betrayal of everything Canadian. It's a betrayal of our sovereignty. It's a betrayal of a good citizen myself who's never hurt anybody. There's no victim here.
Now, Marc Emery is just before the courts right now. He's expected to be taken into custody at BC Supreme Court. He's going to be held in custody until the Canadian Federal Justice Minister signs an extradition order, at which point he's expected to be taken to a Seattle jail.
Let's talk about that move, Tim, to the U.S. As I understand it, he's cut a deal with officials there. What's the sort of sentence he's facing?
Well, at one point, it looked like he was facing as much as 50 years. He has struck a plea deal. Apparently, all sides have agreed that he's going to serve 5 years in a U.S. prison. He says that was partly to save a couple of his co-workers who were also co-conspirators or charged as co-conspirators. By taking this plea deal, he says they'll just serve 2 years probation. But for Emery himself in a U.S. jail, he says he'll serve at minimum about 4 years. That would be if he's given a little bit off for good behavior. But that's why he's urging his supporters now to really put pressure on the Canadian government to have him serve his sentence here. He says if he's allowed to serve his sentence in Canada, then he'll be able to perhaps get out after a year or two. And that's what the main thrust is. And he says if the federal justice minister does go ahead and sign the extradition, and if they refuse to let him serve his sentence here, he's urging his supporters to punish the Conservatives, and he says they can do that at the next election.
Mm-hmm. Now, I understand that's what his wife is going to be fighting for, right? To have him spend his time in prison in Canada. As a matter of fact, Tim, I should tell our viewers that we obviously won't be talking to Marc Emery because he's in court and then he'll be taken into custody, but his wife, Jody Emery, will be joining me on the program about 2 hours, 15 minutes from now, so we'll have her on the program. Thanks for the update, Tim.